Something feels off lately, and you don't need psychology books to notice it. You feel it the moment a conversation turns tense for no clear reason. You sense it in the way kindness feels cautious now, almost suspicious. You can tell almost instantly when someone is carrying unresolved chaos inside them. It leaks through their words, their reactions, their need to dominate the space. This isn't coincidence. It isn't just bad people. It's a symptom of a culture that is quietly fraying from the inside. You noticed it before you had language for it. Interactions feel heavier. People are sharper, quicker to defend, quicker to assume threat. Toxic behavior doesn't stand out anymore because it's everywhere. And this isn't you becoming cynical or intolerant. Something has genuinely shifted. Modern life is shaping personalities in ways that reward instability, self-absorption, and emotional aggression. It starts with numbness. Life is loud, constant, and overstimulated. There is no real silence anymore, and without silence, there is no reflection. People react endlessly, but rarely process anything. Discomfort isn't explored, it's escaped. Emotions aren't examined, they're suppressed. Avoidance becomes routine. Denial becomes instinct. Blame becomes efficient. Over time, these coping strategies stop being temporary and harden into identity. When awareness is avoided long enough, empathy fades. Not because people are evil, but because awareness feels too painful to sustain. And once empathy fades, harm becomes invisible to the person causing it. That's where toxicity takes root. Then comes speed. Everything now demands immediacy, pleasure, validation, outrage, response. Patience erodes, and with it emotional maturity. Growth requires time, friction, and discomfort. Speed removes all three. People begin expecting outcomes without effort, respect without accountability, understanding without self-examination. In this environment, manipulation outpaces honesty, control replaces connection, and taking becomes easier than earning. Selfishness stops feeling wrong and starts feeling efficient. But the most dangerous shift happens quietly: emotional illiteracy. People are fluent in opinions, but illiterate in feelings. They know how to argue, but not how to reflect. They know how to accuse, but not how to take responsibility. Without emotional skills, people default to survival mode. And survival mode is defensive, reactive, and aggressive. Every disagreement feels like an attack. Every boundary feels like betrayal. Toxic people aren't born toxic. Most are emotionally underdeveloped adults who learn that control feels safer than vulnerability. And society keeps rewarding that choice. Social platforms amplify the loudest voices, not the healthiest ones. Outrage spreads faster than nuance. Narcissistic traits are rebranded as confidence. Accountability is reframed as weakness. Cruelty becomes content. Insecurity is monetized. Every time someone gains attention through manipulation or aggression, the message is reinforced. This works. Do it again. Underneath all of it is something more fragile. People are losing contact with themselves. When you don't know who you are, you search for identity through power. When you feel unstable inside, you look for enemies outside. When you fear your own flaws, you attack them in others. Tearing people down becomes a way to avoid self-confrontation. Toxic behavior feels relieving because it distracts from the emptiness people refuse to face. Society itself is overwhelmed. Change is faster than the nervous system can adapt. Meaning feels thin. Stability feels rare. And when someone feels powerless internally, they often try to reclaim power externally by controlling conversations, dominating narratives, and invalidating others. Toxicity becomes armor, a mask for vulnerability no one taught them how to manage. That's why everyday interactions feel like walking through emotional landmines. You speak and someone explodes. You disagree and someone feels attacked. You set a boundary and you're accused of betrayal. People aren't developing thicker skin. They're developing thinner skin paired with larger egos. And that combination turns ordinary conversations into battlegrounds. Words get twisted because insecurity hears threat everywhere. Manipulation replaces dialogue because honesty requires vulnerability. Society didn't just create toxic people. It created conditions where toxicity feels like the safest way to survive emotionally. The most unsettling part is that many toxic individuals genuinely believe they're the healthy ones. They think they're defending themselves. They think they're standing in their truth. Emotional dysfunction disguises itself as strength, and control masquerades as confidence. There's little pressure to grow, little reward for self-awareness, and almost no consequence for emotional harm. So the patterns spread, and slowly you change too. You become cautious, you trust less easily, you pause before speaking. Your nervous system stays alert because it has learned how unpredictable people have become. You start expecting manipulation before kindness. You build walls not because you're cold, but because experience trained you to protect yourself. Society stops relating and starts defending. People don't listen, they wait to react. Conversations become contests for control instead of attempts at understanding. This is how connection erodes, not through open hostility, but through constant low-level threat. And the erosion accelerates because consequences have faded. People can burn bridges and simply move on. New circles, new platforms, new identities. Accountability becomes optional. Toxic behavior spreads because nothing stops it. But here's the shift that matters. The rise of toxicity doesn't mean you're powerless. It means clarity has become rare and therefore valuable. The more unstable people become, the more grounded presence stands out. The more manipulation becomes normal, the more self-awareness becomes protection. You don't need to fix toxic people. You don't need to expose them. You don't need to explain yourself to them. You only need to understand how they operate, so you stop mistaking their dysfunction for your responsibility. That understanding creates emotional independence, something toxic dynamics cannot survive. When you stay calm, they lose leverage. When you remain clear, they lose influence. When you stop reacting, they lose control. Toxicity feeds on confusion and entanglement, but it weakens in the presence of clarity. Once you see the pattern, you stop internalizing chaos that was never yours to carry. You stop questioning your sanity. You stop absorbing damage that doesn't belong to you. This awareness changes how you move. You respond instead of react. You choose distance instead of engagement. You protect your energy without guilt. Because in a world losing emotional depth, self-awareness isn't optional, it's essential. The world may continue producing more unstable personalities, but it will also produce people who wake up, people who choose clarity over chaos, people who value depth over performance, people who understand that peace isn't found in winning arguments, but in refusing unnecessary battles. You can't fix society, but you can stop letting it shape you unconsciously. You can protect your inner stability in an unstable time. And that isn't withdrawal, it's evolution. The future won't belong to the loudest voices, but to the clearest minds. Not to those who dominate others, but to those who master themselves.